Value of circumstances.
TOK style presentation by 10th DP.
In 2019, in China, a new unknown virus was detected. It was named COVID-19, and it started spreading all over the globe, with a tremendous speed taking the lives of the innocent. For now, April 2020, the number of people infected is approaching 3 million. This virus has influenced almost all countries in the world. The state of isolation and quarantine has been declared in thousands of cities. The situation in the USA, Italy and Spain are now the most difficult. For instance, on the 15th of April, there were about 600,000 people infected in the USA. There are more than 100,000 death cases all over the world and about 20,000 in Italy. The appearance of this virus has become a shift in economic, social and political stability, in the development of medicine and in each individual's everyday life, affecting both our personal and our shared knowledge. Most of the information we see during the day is related to the coronavirus. News, talk shows, memes on social media. So many sources to shape one's knowledge. Who to trust? This question and this real-life situation led us to the creation of the following central knowledge question. To what extent should circumstances influence shaping our beliefs and knowledge? And subsidiary knowledge questions. To what extent should we rely on shared knowledge in the process of understanding different circumstances? What should affect shaping our beliefs and knowledge, shared knowledge of personal experience? To what extent are AOKs altered by the circumstances?
Our first subsidiary knowledge question is, to what extent should we rely on shared knowledge in the process of understanding different circumstances? And it refers to the main real-life situation with the COVID-19 pandemic. Our knowledge claim is, to understand serious circumstances such as the pandemic, each individual should rely on shared knowledge to take precautions and speed up the process of settling the situation. The areas of knowledge will explore history and ethics. The ways of knowing will consider reason, memory, emotion, and faith. Reason and emotion will be explored because we believe that no valuable analysis of the circumstances can be done without a balance of these two ways of knowing. Memory will be explored because we believe that it is a means to analyze the past and link the results of the analysis to the present situation. In addition, it is of course our perception and interpretation of the past times. Shared knowledge is a product of more than one individual, therefore any knowledge which shaped communally will be considered as shared knowledge. Linking to our real-life situation, personal knowledge does not help to change the circumstances until the moment it becomes shared knowledge, meaning individual's knowledge is shared with the whole society. As we know, the COVID-19 appeared in China, therefore the state was the first one to face and combat this problem, trying to generate the solutions, such as inventing medications, initiating quarantine and isolation. To be precise, China locked down the whole area to prevent the expansion of the coronavirus. Thus, the whole world could rely on its example and its methods of dealing with this global issue. Having relied on memory and reason and used the Chinese historical example, all the other countries started taking action. For instance, many states such as Ukraine declared the lockdown even before the situation started worsening, which prevented the wide and rapid spread of the virus. Analyzing and reasoning any new shared knowledge about the coronavirus helps countries to take all the precautions possible to minimize the risk of its expansion. Still, not only the countries analyze the situation and choose the methods that appeal to their own state system and national mentality, but also each citizen, each human being has to choose what path to follow according to the shared knowledge. In such different circumstances as the COVID-19 pandemic, most people tend to believe all shared knowledge to prevent any harm to themselves and their beloved ones. Consequently, the emotion of love and care leads to feasible decision-making. Now, most people are guided by the motto, more is better than less. In other words, any precautions are for the best, any precautions are valuable, therefore any shared knowledge about the development of the virus is valuable and significant. Nevertheless, unfortunately, there are such people who believe that less is better than more. So, presenting our personal experience, we claim that some people behave irresponsibly, relying on their own reason and emotion and not trusting the shared knowledge. For example, because of their desire to meet friends or go for a walk, people ignore the precautions. In Russia, there are people who do not rely on shared knowledge and believe that the coronavirus does not exist at all and continue to walk in the streets and keep in contact with infected people, which of course has a negative impact on our joint efforts to overcome the pandemic. What ethics examines is thought, choice, and action. So we consider such mistrust for the shared knowledge and choice to disregard quarantine unethical, unreasonable, and unwise. Because these people who ignore the quarantine put themselves, their families, their country, and the whole world in danger, only because they are not accountable enough to rely on the shared knowledge and protect themselves. Now we're moving on to our knowledge counterclaim.
Our counterclaim is, even in such serious circumstances, relying on all shared knowledge is not reasonable, as the excessive trust might worsen the situation. It is essential to understand that shared knowledge to believe in, as there is a tremendous quantity of unreliable and invalid data, such as unofficial websites which promote deceitful information causing panic. Unreliable information means that it is not based on in-depth research, lacks accuracy, and is of low quality. Referencing our real-life situation, it is important to point out that due to the relevance of the topic about COVID-19, it is profitable for mass media companies to publish articles on this topic, so the value of credibility of information is lost. Despite its unreliability and lack of real evidence, people continue to trust this bias and under the influence of emotions make imperfect choices, such as, for example, visiting healthcare organizations to get tested to make sure they are not infected. But in fact, this decision may have an opposite effect. The risk of infection increases because they get in contact with potential carriers of the virus. Another logical fallacy that can be considered in this real-life situation is authority worship. In our opinion, authority worship is the process of blindly accepting facts from those in authority as truth without any evaluation. Apart from believing mass media, people tend to trust their idols and consequently the information they promote. We will consider the concept according to faith as way of knowing. For instance, the message conveyed in Vladimir Putin's speech was that the overall priority for the country was the health, safety, and life. However, according to my personal experience, there was no action taken, as when I came back to Moscow from Spain, which was already on the top of the list of the infected countries, I did not get tested neither in the airport nor at home, as was promised by official websites and news. Therefore, words and actions do differ, which challenges the credibility of the shared knowledge. Moreover, even if official websites are believed to transmit truthful information, supported by clear evidence, due to political reasons, the real numbers of people who got coronavirus might be hidden, at least partially. These numbers might also be underestimated due to the lack of tests and the rapidity of the virus's spread. In the beginning, when the COVID-19 was spreading only across China, there were predictions made by knowledgeable economists that the dangerous and it would not go beyond China's borders. They evaluated that there would be no significant effects of the virus. But as we can see, they underestimated the facts, and the faith in this shared knowledge by governments of other countries made them not to take almost no action for protection. This faith ended up to an incredibly rapid spread of the virus and increasing number of deaths across the globe. There is also such untrue shared knowledge as the assumption that the coronavirus does not exist at all. Taking this perspective leads to the growth of the irresponsible attitude to the circumstances, which is intensified by the Russian culture and mentality. Russians are sure that they can undergo any dangerous circumstances without any consequences, so they do not take the situation seriously. They do not remain in full quarantine, go outdoors, and meet up in large groups in public places. Thus, this shared knowledge should not be trusted.
Our conclusion is, to understand different circumstances, it is essential to rely on such shared knowledge that is approved by official authorities and is supported by credible evidence. Even though in such circumstances as the COVID-19 pandemic, it is somewhat beneficial to make all the prevention actions possible, emotions should not outweigh reason, causing panic. Thus, we should rely on shared knowledge only after it gets tested, balanced, and confirmed.
Our second subsidiary knowledge question is, what should affect shaping our beliefs and knowledge, shared knowledge or personal experience?
It would be interesting to discuss our second ROS about Boris Johnson's policy towards treating COVID-19. Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. During the coronavirus infection, the politician outlined that Britain's government wouldn't take any actions to combat the coronavirus. Boris claimed that Everything would pass by itself and added. Wasn't destined to survive the pandemic, then this was the fate. Later on, Boris Johnson had caught the virus himself and had been admitted to the hospital. Fortunately, the politician was able to recover. However, his policy about treating the coronavirus has changed. Now Johnson encourages UK citizens to stay at home. You must stay at home, said the Prime Minister.
Answering our subsidiary knowledge question, our claim is: sharing knowledge is an extremely responsible process since it can influence people, their minds and beliefs. Unfortunately, not all shared knowledge is valid. The process of blindly accepting facts from those in authority as truth without thinking about it, known as authority worship, can cause logical fallacy and lead to gaining the wrong knowledge. Since personal experience is gained from your own emotions, reasons, feelings, and memory, it is an extremely valuable source of obtaining knowledge. It is based on your personal biography, ergo, one finds it trustworthy and reliable.
On the other hand, there can be another answer. Still, shared knowledge contains wider points of view, and as it is assembled by a group of people who are able to check and improve the information presented, it can be considered more instructive and less biased. Moreover, when it comes to global questions, shared knowledge is a better source of information.
To sum up, our mini conclusion is: both personal experience and shared knowledge should affect shaping our beliefs and knowledge. The extent to which it should form them is dependent on the situation. While personal experience can be considered a more reliable source of information, shared knowledge is more informative and influential. Nowadays, it is becoming more and more difficult to analyze and obtain information, since the situation in the world is constantly changing.
Third subsidiary knowledge question: to what extent are AOKs altered by the circumstances?
Real-life situation. In 2001, terroristic act in New York, in future called by the day it happened, 9/11, took 2,996 lives and injured 25,000 people. On the day of the 11th of September, Muslim terrorists seized 4 planes. One destroyed Pentagon, another one was crushed in the field, and other 2 were targeted at the World Trade Center in New York. Claim: if knowledge was critically affected by circumstances that caused paradigm shifts and made the AOK healthier, thus some of the AOK's methods should be altered. Counterclaim: circumstances that have had global impact and have become paradigm shifts themselves may not drastically affect the knowledge that is currently accepted, but engender new perspectives on the issue that will not bring any benefits if accepted, conversely only harm the AOKs. Therefore, they do not need to be altered.
This tragedy has made a big impact on people's lives and even changed them. Thus, AOKs changed as well. People became afraid of Muslims because in their minds terrorism has become associated with Islam. This fear affected ethics strongly, and many people started behaving unethically towards Muslims, insult and belittle them.
The 9/11 event clearly demonstrated that the centers of power are now not in the capitals of the nuclear powers. Such centers can be created by a couple of hundred well-motivated people. So the politics have also changed a lot. Governments of many countries had to strengthen their positions. For instance, American government sent troops to Iran and Afghanistan. And of course, it has changed the course of history as it puts a great strain on relationships between the countries of East and West.
When circumstances happen that have a huge impact, all the spheres should be able to react on those changes. If some of the AOKs, their methodology and even scope alter a lot, it does not make others to be altered. Thus, due to circumstances appeared, knowledge and perspectives that make AOKs unhealthier should not be accepted. Notwithstanding, some of the main concepts and basic principles, for example, moral rules, should not be ever changed.
Here is our main conclusion. Circumstances can influence shaping people's beliefs and knowledge to some extent. However, in the process of adaptation to global problems, we should analyze information and form our viewpoint without any bias, extracting only valuable data, which would then shape our beliefs and knowledge.
Linking back to the real-life situation 1, the COVID-19 contributed to shaping people's beliefs and knowledge and demonstrated how important it is to evaluate the shared knowledge and take actions respectively.
Linking back to our second real-life situation about Boris Johnson's policy towards treating COVID-19, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom understood all the severity of the situation only when himself had experienced catching the virus, despite the fact that shared knowledge about the coronavirus was already confirmed. This case shows that personal experience sometimes can be the only source of obtaining information to understand the true scale of the problem. The Boris Johnson's policy towards combating coronavirus should have been based on shared knowledge, as it was a global question that needed to be taken seriously and resolved properly by considering the most reliable sources of information.
Linking back to the third real-life situation, Terroristic Act 9/11 showed that circumstance that caused paradigm shifts critically affected existing knowledge, altering some of the AOKs, while knowledge of others acquired new perspectives.
Circumstances must not create logical fallacies in people's reasoning. For example, they should not fall in stereotype thinking, arguments from analogy, etc. Shaping beliefs and knowledge should be directed at making AOKs healthier and also in order to make life better.
Thank you for your attention.
Wishing you all to be healthy and surrounded by favorable circumstances.
Goodbye.